Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Chambers. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're doing well, no matter where you are in the world. I hope you're safe and happy and healthy. And it is time to get that favorite drink or that blanket or that favorite pet, curl up, and get ready to talk travel. That's right. We are going to be diving into something fantastic today. We're going to be looking and traveling to Cabo San Lucas. That's right. We're going to talk about traveling to Cabo San Lucas and also some recommended activities to do while down in Cabo San Lucas. And we'll also get into hotels and recommended stays while you are making that trip down there. And stay to the end because you're not going to want to miss my top 10 reasons why you should consider staying at an all-inclusive resort. So let's get into it. So today we're talking about traveling to Cabo San Lucas. And many people, they think they know where Cabo is, but they really don't. And Cabo San Lucas is located in Mexico on the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula. That's right. It's basically where desert meets the ocean. And part of the charm and the beauty of Cabo is that very fact. The fact that the desert meeting the ocean gives it all of a sudden this desolate type of feel with rock and cactus and sand. And then all of a sudden you get to these gorgeous beaches and beautiful water, and you just feel like you're then in the Caribbean. So it's wonderful. And it really is a kind of a hidden gem, I think. I think Cabo San Lucas gets a little bit of a bad rap when it comes to people thinking about a getaway or a longer vacation destination. I think it can be a place that you can easily stay for a week, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But it is a beautiful, beautiful place, and one of the great places in Mexico that if you haven't been to, I highly recommend it. My wife and I had a fabulous time when we went, and so if you are looking for a romantic getaway or even a family getaway, you can consider Cabo San Lucas. Now, something to know about Cabo San Lucas is it has two towns, so you want to make sure that you know exactly where you're staying. So there's Cabo San Lucas, and then there's San Jose del Cabo. Okay, they're 45 minutes apart. So they're not very far. So you fly in, and San Jose del Cabo is actually closer to the airport. If you're going to Cabo San Lucas, which is where the famous arch is, then you are going to be going into a little bit farther away from the airport at that point. And like I said, they're only 45 minutes apart, so you can easily do a day trip back and forth. And everyone says, well, what's the difference? Well, Cabo San Lucas has a lot more people, a lot more resorts, and it's considered more of the party or very high energy, let's say, town. There's lots to do, a lot of nightlife. San Jose del Cabo is a little bit quieter. There's a lot of cultural history. There's a lot of art, and it's really interesting to walk around the town, and it gives you a really wonderful feel of Mexico and just the area in general. So it is absolutely worth the trip to go to San Jose del Cabo. We went down there, and it was just a great getaway. And also, if you don't like a lot of big crowds, and you are staying in Cabo San Lucas, and there's a lot of things going on, and you just want to get away to a little bit of a quieter area, then I highly recommend going down to San Jose del Cabo. You need to do both. I'm just going to say that right now because they're both very different and they're both worth it. We had a wonderful time, and they're very easy to walk around once you get down there. So the art and the shops and the food, it's all wonderful. So again, just a little quieter area, but a lot of culture, a lot of art. So it's wonderful. So just a little thing about Cabo just in general. Everyone speaks English, but the local language is Spanish. So it's really great knowing a little bit of Spanish going down there. No matter where you go in the world, I think it's always important to learn a few phrases. If obviously it's hard to learn an entire language before a trip, but if you learn a couple phrases or important things, I think it shows it's a respect that is shown to the people that are native to that country. And I think it speaks volumes, and I think people love it when they are speaking their native language. But if you are not a Spanish speaker and you don't have your phone with you, everyone typically speaks English, or the majority of people down there will speak English. But nonetheless, just get that Google Translate app on that phone, like I talked about in previous podcasts. One of those travel apps you should get. And you can have a couple phrases or things that you know and need to know ready to translate right there on your phone. So there you go. Now, the currency down there is the Mexican peso, but U.S. dollars are accepted around the area. And in fact, U.S. dollars are very highly accepted. So you don't have to change your money. And I wouldn't recommend changing your money, but I would recommend having some spare change, a couple bills that you can have, small bills of U.S. dollars would be very helpful because tipping is customary down there. And so it's just good to have just a little bit of cash, but I would not carry around a lot of money. You can go to ATMs and you can get money out that way. Or these days, everything is mostly credit cards and, things like that, and apps and things and ways to pay. So it's really not necessary to have a lot of money when traveling down there, but it is good to have a little bit of cash. But if you're coming from the U.S., have no fear. Just if you have small bills, that will suffice. But if you want to get pesos and things like that, you can. But tipping is considered customary. Now, depending where you're coming from, getting there is relatively easy. It's easier than you think. It's really only a 2.5-hour flight from LAX, which is right there in Los Angeles. So if you are flying from a different city, like we were coming from Texas, we ended up taking a flight from Dallas. We went up to Dallas and then caught a direct flight from Dallas since they had connecting flights from Houston for some reason. So we found a straight flight from Dallas and just drove up there, saw some friends, and took our flight, which was direct. There are ways to find other ways to get down there on direct flights. For me, it's always easier if you're on one flight versus several, but, again, depending where you come from, you may not be able to help that. A lot of people might be coming from Australia, or if they're from out of the States and they're traveling in California and then want to go to Mexico, there's a lot of different customs. You have to go through customs once or even twice, depending on your travel plans. So keep that in mind when traveling. But again, if you fly into Los Angeles, it's a 2.5-hour flight. And for those of you that are coming in from different countries, or even coming from the other side of the U.S., like New York or, South Carolina, North Carolina, Boston, wherever it is over there, or, up north by, Toronto or, Canada or anywhere, and you're coming down and you fly into L.A., I actually recommend getting a hotel for a night, just letting yourself kind of be ready to go, relax a little bit. If you're taking a flight that's longer than 4 hours, if you're taking a 5+ hour flight to get over here, I think it's good to get to LA, get a night in a hotel, get rejuvenated, and then get, a nice morning flight down there, because a 2.5-hour flight will be like nothing at that point. and then you'll be ready to go. The second you step off the plane, you'll be set to go in Cabo. So that's really kind of a high recommendation that I'm going to throw out there for you guys. For me, I'm one of those that likes to get there in one trip, or, get it all over with as much as I possibly can. I pay for it later, I'm not going to lie. So that is something that I have to kind of be flexible with these days. But for me, I didn't mind. We drove up to Dallas, which was 4 hours, and then we took a 3-hour flight. So it was essentially 7 hours. And then we got there, and we were there in the afternoon, and we did things. But for me, the excitement of travel is always a good thing, and it always rejuvenates me and energizes me just a little bit more. So that's how I am. Some of you might be the same way, but for those of you who are not, take that extra night, stay in LA, and then go down there instead of getting down there and just being exhausted. Now, you're not going to have to worry too much about weather when you're going to Cabo, because the weather is 350 days of sunshine. That's a lot of sunshine. That's right. There's going to be, even if you catch a little bit of rain or, some heavy clouds that come over, they will be gone before you know it. So I guarantee you're not going to have a rained out trip the entire time you're there. That's just not possible there in Cabo. High season is typically November through June. So that's when, if you're looking at the high season, a lot of people go down between November and June. And if you're interested in whale watching, which I really get into whale watching if I have the chance, if it's available, December through April is whale watching season. So if you're looking for that, maybe a Christmas vacation or, a spring vacation, or even if you go down on spring break for those younger college kids or, whoever else is getting a spring break, if you go down there December through April, you'll have a great chance of seeing whales off the coast, and that's great for whale watching and during that season. So there you go. But there's not really a bad time to go down to Cabo, and that's what's so wonderful about it. Now, a couple things with your airport flights and everything. After you've landed, make sure that you have all your things and you go through customs. Getting to your hotel and wherever you're going to at that point, just be a little bit cautious about what you're doing. You're going to see a lot of shuttles or independent taxi drivers or people that are trying to get you to use their service. And there is a bus that you can use. It's relatively cheap. I think it may be like $5. We didn't use the bus, but it is available. There is a bus that can take you to Cabo. And you just need to be aware, because there were lots of people that were trying to get us to use their service and their shuttle, and we already had travel plans or our transportation taken care of before we even got down there, and that's what I highly recommend. But just be aware that if they tell you there's not a bus, there is a bus. These days, Uber is probably the better way to go, because you can take care of it, you know what you're paying, and that way you're not going to get taken or have you get a scam, be part of a scam, right? No one wants to get scammed on vacation. But what we did, we actually rented a car. And now you don't need to rent a car. Again, if you know where you're going and you're going to be in one area, Uber or even whatever hotel or place you're staying, they may offer a shuttle. So just make sure you look into that. But Uber would be the way to go. But we ended up renting a car, and I actually really liked the fact that we rented a car, because it gave us a chance to travel between the two towns. Now, we didn't stay in Cabo San Lucas. We stayed on that stretch of beach between the two, between San Jose del Cabo and Cabo San Lucas. And there's a stretch of just resorts and hotels and everything along the beach right there between the two cities. And there's lots of choices, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But we ended up staying at one of those resorts, and so we were in the middle. And for us, we got a deal through our American Express when we booked, so we were able to rent a car, and it was just kind of nice just to have it. We ended up going into Cabo and San Jose del Cabo, both. We'd go back and forth a lot. We didn't leave the resort a lot, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about why. But it was good to have, and it felt nice to have our own transportation and not have to worry about that. I will say this, though. If you're not staying in Cabo San Lucas and you rent a car, if you do decide to go into town, I recommend taking an Uber, even if you've rented a car, because it's going to be cheaper to do that. It's kind of a pain to deal with parking in the city. So, but it is possible if you get there early enough. So there you go. Now, just a couple things. COVID updates. Now, Cabo is open for business. It's so funny to say that Cabo is open for business, to say in travel that these cities are open. But yes, Cabo opened up June 15th, so it is possible to travel there now if you're looking to get away. The beaches are open up until 6 p.m. That could change by the time you hear this, or, at one point, who knows, any day now. I don't know when they're going to change this. But right now the beaches are open till 6 p.m. and then they'll have people come by and get everyone off the beach. So there you go. Those are just some recommendations about going down to Cabo. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. There's so much down there. There's so many gorgeous and beautiful things and food to eat. We're going to talk more about this as we go on. So stick with us, because when we come back, I'm going to get into some recommended activities that you're going to want to do when traveling to Cabo.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. We just finished talking and introducing Cabo San Lucas and San Jose del Cabo, and talking about how wonderful it is. And now it is time to get into some recommended activities to do when traveling down to Cabo. That's right. You may already have an idea of what you want to do. And of course, beach is always one. That's always one. I mean, beach should be number one, right? If you're going down to a beautiful place like that, you're going to want to check out the beaches. Now, be aware that there are selected places that you can go to get in the beach, or to use the beach, because there's a very strong undertow right over there by the peninsula. So many of the areas or hotels and resorts that you're going to be staying at you won't be allowed to actually go swimming on the beach, or use the beach to go swimming, because of the undertow. And a lot of people have gotten in trouble with that, and it is not something that you ever want to have to deal with. Trust me. Riptides and undertows and those currents, they are no joke. So make sure that you are abiding by those. But there are some beautiful beaches, and the most popular one, I should say, is the Medano Beach. Medano Beach is considered the main swimming beach in San Lucas. It's full of beach restaurants, vendors. There's, all kinds of different rentals that you can get. It often gets pretty crowded, though. That's the only downside to Medano Beach. It is big with a lot of tourists. So if you're looking for something that isn't quite as popular, we'll talk about another beach that you might want to check out. For added perks like water sports, equipment rentals, head to one of the area, like to the beach clubs, if you're looking for things like that. It's definitely going to satisfy your time in the water, for sure. For sure. Now, the next one that is commonly known which is not quite as touristy, but it's a little bit what they call a hotel zone favorite, right? So this is going to be the Chilano Beach. Chileno Beach, sorry. While Medano Beach is very touristy, Chileno Beach, it's what I was talking about, that hotel zone. It's a favorite. A lot of locals love this. It's a lot more low key. So that, if you're looking for that, then definitely this might be the beach to check out. It does have restrooms and restaurants nearby. It features a calm bay, which is really, really important. So that's really the thing that you want to make sure that when you're checking these beaches out, that you're going to. You want something that works for you. It is good for snorkeling and for swimming, and it's one of Cabo's apparently best snorkeling spots, according to Michelle Rayu from Travel Age West. She says that it is one of the best snorkeling spots in Cabo. So there you go. So recommended there. We didn't travel to Chileno Beach specifically when we were staying. We were somewhere different. We did go to a beach, and it was actually kind of rough, the area, but it was the only swimmable beach that was close to where we were staying. It was called Tequila Cove Beach, and it was over by Hilton Los Cabos Beach over there. It was right along there. There was a little cove, and there was these rocks that it was swimmable along that stretch of beach, only because of the way that the rocks came out and stopped a lot of the water and a lot of that current. And we found it, even to say that it's swimmable, it was still a little rough. So if you are looking for something, a little bit calmer, Chileno Beach would be the other one that I would highly recommend. There's a couple more that are around the area, but just check out and see what fits your needs. Those two are highly recommended. The other beaches that you're going to want to check out are going to be going to, of course, Divorce Beach and Lovers Beach, but you're going to have to get a boat out there. But that is definitely on the to-do list. So those are my beaches. That's right. Lovers and Divorce Beach right there, as well as my Chileno Beach and Medano Beach. So there you go. Check out those beaches for sure while you're there. Now, another thing, since I just mentioned Lovers Beach and Divorce Beach, you're going to want to get a boat out to the arch. Now, there's lots of ways to do this. You can get on one of those tour groups that does little tours in the bay. They have the snorkeling trips that you can get on and do that. But what I'm going to recommend was probably one of the best things that we did while we were on our vacation down in Cabo San Lucas, and that's we got a private boat. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, man, I don't want to spend that much money, and why should I spend that much money to get a private boat? But to be honest, when you go down to the marina and you can talk to a lot of different private tour groups or private boat owners that are down there, and you can find someone that a lot of them do their own private tours, and they have their own boats. And we did a sailboat. We didn't do like a catamaran or like one with a motorboat. We actually did a sailboat, and now we paid for it, but it wasn't super expensive. It was very, very reasonable, and we're talking reasonable for the fact that it was just the two of us and the captain and one of his other guides. And they prepared food for us. They had drinks for us. So we had snacks, and we did a sunset tour around the arch over there. So we actually sailed a little bit farther out. We even got in the water, and we did a little bit of snorkeling. So I highly recommend renting a private boat to go out to the arch and Lovers and Divorce Beach and snorkel and that kind of thing. I think it is really going to be worth your money to do that. Plus, when it's just you guys, they typically will just ask, if you want to go do this. And they were like, well, we'll sail around this way. And they put the sails up, and it was really great. And it was wonderful. We got to see the sunset, and we got to see the other side on the Pacific side, right, where things were happening and the houses and everything just along. It was just really great. It was wonderful. I just can't say enough about that. That was probably my favorite experience, from the food, the activities, and the fact that we had a huge boat to ourselves with this crew, right? We could lay on the front. We didn't have to worry about anyone else coming up there, and we'd go back. I mean, it was wonderful. It was great. So that is my first recommendation out after the beaches. So you have to do that. And you know, like I said, I mentioned earlier, going to the Pacific side is just, the water's just beautiful. It's a little bit, there's not as much crowd, but it's not for swimming though, because there's a very strong undertow on the Pacific side as well. Now, another tour that you can do, or something that an activity you can do, is get a horse and ride along the beach. They have different companies that you can go through, or, you know, depending if you're staying at a hotel that offers those activities, you might want to check that out, because they offer a lot of those. You'll see them up and down the beaches at all different times of the day. Obviously, around sunset or sunrise is going to be the time that you're going to want to do that. You're not going to want to go out in the middle of the day. But hey, maybe you like the sun. Maybe you want to get that nice burnt tan, right? So, but I really recommend going around the late afternoon, so that way you're catching that gorgeous sunset across the water as you're riding back. So if you're a horse person, doing a nice horse ride along the beach is really wonderful. I recommend that one. There's other things that you can do that don't require you to actually get on an animal or a boat or something moving, and that is a tequila tasting. Most of the hotels and resorts that you stay at or can stay at they offer this, and it's actually really great. The Don Julio or whatever the tequila of their choice that they have a series of tequilas that they get out, and you just do a wonderful tasting. If you're a tequila lover, this is great. And even if you're not a tequila lover, I think it is really an interesting experience, because I like tequila in certain things, but I don't like taking shots of tequila. Not since I was, 25. But it is really neat, because when you taste different types of tequilas, you can really understand a difference of why people choose different flavors or darker tequilas over lighter tequilas. And I think it's really interesting, and it's worth really checking out. If you're not an alcohol drinker, obviously not one that you're going to want to do, but I found it a lot of fun. And they do them throughout the day, so it might just be you and whoever you're with, the party you're with. Could be just you and your partner or your family. Hopefully all your family is of drinking age if you're doing that as a family activity. Or there could be several different pairs, couples, or other people that are doing just depending the time of day and where you're staying. So that really depends. But tequila tastings it's a wonderful thing. Now this one, I would do, I know my wife would not do. It's called a flyboard. And if you go in, it's a water activity, and it's basically putting a jet ski and attaching it to your feet. And it's kind of basically allowing you to almost hover above the water with this massive jet ski that's just pushing you off. It's like it's like being like Iron Man, with your feet and just flying above the water. And it looks a lot of fun. It wasn't an activity that we saw when we were down there, so we didn't try it. But I definitely would try it if I went back. I'm an adventurous type. I love the water, so this to me looked a ton of fun. And they say it's not very difficult to get used to. They say it's easier than it looks. And so if you're that kind of adventure, hey, and you want to fly above the water, check out the flyboard when you're down there. Yeah. And if you sticking with that more adventurous side, there are zip lines to do that go across the canyons, because if you want to do and go out and explore a little bit more of the area away from the beaches, you can go do zip lines or ATV tours. That's another thing if you really like to get out, or even a Jeep tour if you don't want to have to deal with driving. The really neat thing about the ATV tours going through the area, there's actually this really long suspended bridge that you can drive over on the ATV, and you're driving over the canyons in the area on this suspended bridge. Now, some of you might not be your cup of tea. You might be sitting there going, no, I came to vacation to relax, not to cling to my life for that heart attack. But it is, to me, exciting, and if you're one of those adventurers, then hey, then more power to it. The other thing that I'm going to recommend that you guys do is take some time for yourself just to relax. That's right. Spend time at that pool, because most resorts, most hotels, and even most homes that you can rent in the area are going to have pools of some kind. So taking time just to enjoy being down there is definitely a thing you must do. I mean, we're on vacation, and every now and then, even for people like me, who I'm a doer when I go on vacation. And when I see activities and things in an area, I want to experience everything and as much as I can while I'm there. But I sometimes have to tell myself, hey, I need a day or I need some time to take a nap. I need to get in that hammock and just relax and hear the ocean, or go get a massage, or just sit and read a book and enjoy where I am. So make sure you take some time for yourself when you do that. There's lots of places to eat, and, it's almost impossible to tell you guys or to give recommendations of where to go and eat. The food down there is just so delicious. I mean, the seafood is fresh, the spices and the Mexican cuisine, it is just all fabulous. And there's a reason that I'm not getting into the food and just generally telling you that try the local food. There's so many restaurants. Just don't be afraid to do a little bit of research on that. But like I was saying, the reason I'm not going to get into a lot of the food is because I'm going to talk about that with the hotels coming up in just a second. So there you go. Those are my recommended activities that you should do while down in Cabo San Lucas. So stick around, because when we come back, I'm going to talk about those recommended stays. And if you stay till the end, you're going to get my top 10 reasons why an all-inclusive resort might be worth your time.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. We were just talking about some great things to do while traveling to Cabo, but now I want to get into some hotel and recommendations of where to stay. Because like any trip, we need to know where we need to go. We need to know what we are looking for and what fits our style. Now, everyone's style is a little bit different, and when you go down to Cabo, a really big thing, and most of you who have traveled to Cancun and other parts of Mexico know that all-inclusive resorts are a very big thing down in Mexico. And in fact, the first all-inclusive resort that I ever stayed at was down in Cabo San Lucas. And I'm going to talk about a couple recommendations. Some of them are not all-inclusive resorts, and some of them are all-inclusive resorts. So it's really going to be up to you how you want to look at and spend your vacation, because I think there's positives and negatives to both sides of that argument. But let's start with a couple of options that are not major resorts or larger all-inclusives. So if you're looking to stay in downtown, I'm going to recommend the Marina View Villas. It's located steps from the marina, basically, and the Cabo San Lucas Museum. They have an outdoor swimming pool, a lounge, and if you're right in the middle of town, it's very what I wanted to call cute, but it has a very good vibe, a very wonderful and gorgeous property. So you're going to want to check availability. It gets highly rated. It's good for families. So if you're traveling with your family and you're not looking to stay at one of the larger hotels and resorts, this might be an option for you. It's a little bit smaller, a little more boutique. So there are other places that are family friendly that I'm not going to get into. I'm going to talk a little bit more about more of adult-only type locations and or places that are on the more luxurious side. But there are places that are budget-friendly. And before I jump into any of those a little bit more luxurious things, I will say that it is possible, and there's a lot of Airbnbs down in Cabo. So if you are one that always likes getting Airbnbs and you always find great deals, hey, check out, there are some wonderful Airbnbs that I have seen on their website that people rent out their places, and they have their own pools, which, you know, the upside to an Airbnb is always that it's private and you can typically get a better deal. Sometimes the downside is that it's not really in the middle of the action, or you have to then get the cost of renting a car or paying for taxis or Ubers back and forth. You know, whatever your style of vacation is, you want to fit and tailor for you. So Airbnb is a good choice. But as well, I'm going to talk about a couple other resorts. So I'm going to first talk about a couple recommended resorts, and these are very high-end resorts. Some of them are higher end than others, and some of them are what I consider a luxury resort, but not on the budget. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. So first and foremost, the most expensive resort and hotel that you could probably stay at in Cabo is called the one and only Pamia. The one and only Pamia is located, it's not in Cabo San Lucas, it's along that stretch of beach between Cabo San Lucas and San Jose del Cabo. So it is what you would consider top-of-the-line, luxury, everything that you could possibly ask for is at this resort. You're just talking for first class all the way. So if that's what you're looking for, then I recommend it. I mean, they have gorgeous views, you know, beautiful pool. It's got, you know, the Spanish-style mission. You know, the grounds are absolutely gorgeous. There's spa treatments. They have their own, you know, dining, and, you know, it's just, what can you say? There's the golf course is located right there. So if you're looking for pure luxury and that infinity pool that looks right out across the ocean and just top of the line luxury, you can. I mean, they have their own movie theater and stuff in there that you can lounge about. But again, it just depends your style. But that is probably the one. It's going to run you anywhere close to $1,200 to $1,300 a night. That's right. You may be able to find it a little bit cheaper, but you're typically going to be paying above $1,000 a night for a stay. Now, I'm not saying that that's not worth it, but if you have the wallet that allows you to do that, then hey, take advantage, because I hear it's wonderful, and the pictures and everything that I've seen about this place, it looks gorgeous, and highly recommend it. One downside about this place that to me is the beach right there. There's not really a beach because you can't swim along there. That's just, there's this, again, we talk about that strong undertow in previous segments, but the beaches it's right there on the rocks. And so they have decks that sit out where you can sit and view the ocean, and it's still beautiful and gorgeous. But to me, I like having that beach and that sand that I actually can walk out onto and really feel that it's spread out a little bit more than just this small little area by all the rocks. But it is beautiful. It is worth it. So check it out. Another one I'm going to put out there, okay, is called the Marquis Los Cabos Resort and Spa. It's an adult only, and it's all the suites face the water. It's an all-inclusive, and you're going to find all the suites you're just getting water views. That's right. You can't ask for anything better. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Again, it's along the same stretch, and you're going to notice that between the two cities, there's that long stretch of beach, that 45-minute drive, which is literally one road. And there is a lot of resorts, and a lot of the bigger resorts are along there. Now, there are some closer to town, and they tend to be a lot more crowded, but these also are popular too. And more of the all-inclusive resorts are along this stretch before you get into Cabo San Lucas. And there is an advantage to that. And, some may think it's a disadvantage, but I think it is an advantage because it is a little quieter and the activities you have at the all-inclusive are right there. So you may not even feel the need to go in. But again, I recommend at least going into downtown at least one night or one evening, one afternoon, at least one day. At least one day in each city, and then spend the rest of the time at your hotel and resort if they have those type of activities. So that is another one that I'm going to recommend. The other one is not in Cabo San Lucas or along that stretch. It's closer down to San Jose del Cabo. It's the Hotel El Gonzo. And I think I like this the most because I love the Muppets. And so when I saw Gonzo, I just loved it. It spoke out. So I was looking it up, and it's a beautiful hotel and it's very unique. And there's a reason that I really got struck on this and stuck on looking at this hotel. And part of the reason is that not only does it have beautiful views, the views are of the marina because it's right there. It's in the quieter town, the San Jose del Cabo, which is a lot quieter, so you have a little bit more peace. It's very unique with art. It's like an art museum almost. There's very unique art all over the place, modern and all the, it's just all over. And I noticed that. And then as I was looking things up, it actually has a hidden music studio that is downstairs. It's kind of like, it's like hidden almost, if it's underground, but you go down to it. And apparently very famous musicians have come in and recorded there. And being a huge music person, it was a very unique thing about that hotel. So I thought it was really neat. It's beautiful. It's worth the stay. I really recommend you guys check that out. Hotel El Gonzo. It's in San Jose del Cabo. So it is going to be a little bit of a drive if you're going to be spending a lot of time in Cabo San Lucas. So consider that when choosing, but it is worth checking out. Okay, the last one that I'm going to be talking about is actually where I stayed. And I stayed at a place called the Zoetry Wellness Spa and Resort. That's right. So the Zoetry is a beautiful all-inclusive. It's adult only. It's actually located their sister property is right next door, which is a family-friendly property. And so if you're traveling with a family, it's right in the same stretch of beach right there. It's down from the Hilton, which, by the way, that is along that stretch of beach. That's the only beach that's swimmable that I talked about earlier. And you can actually walk there from the Zoetry. It's probably about a 10-minute walk, but if you like walking along the beach, it's absolutely worth it. Now, it's, again, all-inclusive. So you have a la carte dining. You get, sparkling wine and fresh fruit daily. There's 24-hour in-suite dining. This is another thing. They refresh your mini bar every day. There's a concierge service made 3 times daily. It's an all-inclusive, so it's wonderful. And let me just tell you, the food that we had while staying at the Zoetry Wellness and Spa Resort was fantastic. It was delicious. We only ate at one other restaurant, and then, of course, on the boat when we went out, when we were in Cabo. The rest of the time we were eating at the Zoetry, which was an all-inclusive. And this was our first time at an all-inclusive. And we were very hesitant because for us, we like to go places where we can experience everything. And when we got this trip and we decided we were going to try this out, we figured, well, this would be the best thing. We're not going to be taking too many day trips and things like that. So let's try it. And I absolutely would stay at another all-inclusive resort going back down to Cabo. Not saying that there are not other great places to stay, but it just takes the stress away, and it let us enjoy being down there, and we didn't have to worry about it. We spent a lot of time in the pool and going to that swim-up bar because your drinks are included, and there was a lot of different activities that we could do that they provided. And, you also get spa credits and things like that. And so we went out and got a massage right there on the beach. Man, it was worth everything. So I highly, highly recommend, if you're looking for one, we stayed there. Check it out. It's the Zoetry Wellness and Spa Resort. It's not a far drive. I mean, you're looking at maybe 20 minutes because it's midway between the two cities, between San Jose del Cabo and Cabo San Lucas. So you're looking at a 20-minute ride either way, which to me is really nothing at that point. And again, we rented a car, so we could jump in the car and go back and forth. And, you can also, they have a golf cart that they can drive you around the property if you don't want to walk. And the properties are relatively big. So there's lots of exploring and things to do, tennis courts, anything that you could probably think of, they got. So there you go. That's going to be my recommendations right there. So that is my last one, the Zoetry Wellness and Spa Resort. Highly recommend it. Stick around, because when we come back, what you've been waiting for, we're going to talk about the top 10 reasons why an all-inclusive resort might be worth the time. Don't go anywhere.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everyone. We were just discussing hotels and recommended stays in Cabo San Lucas. So I hope you guys got some really great ideas for your next trip. But right now, I want to thank you for sticking around, because we're going to talk about all-inclusive resorts. That's right. A lot of you, I can feel your face just went, ooh, no, no. And some of you just went, yes, yes, yes. There seems to be a split on the fence every time you say the word all-inclusive. And in Mexico, and it seems Jamaica, they tend to have a lot of all-inclusive resorts. And they're not the only place, because there are all-inclusives all over the place. And some people love them. They love them. It's kind of like going on a cruise ship. Everything's there. It's an all-inclusive. They love it. That's just how some people love to travel. But if you've never tried one, you can't really knock it completely, I don't think. And this was coming from someone who was very, no. Trust me, I would say that just like that. But after trying an all-inclusive, I enjoyed my stay. And I understand why some people really find all-inclusive resorts a way to travel and really enjoy your stay even more. So I completely understand it. It's not going to be my choice to do every trip I take, but if I ever go back to Cabo, I definitely love the experience with all-inclusive and would stay at another one. And I would possibly stay at another all-inclusive resort, but there are positives and minuses to it. But right now, we're going to talk about 10 reasons that you may want to reconsider, that might make you want to reconsider an all-inclusive resort if you've never stayed in one. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Number 10, it is easier to budget. That's right. With an all-inclusive, you know exactly what you're paying for. So if you are one of those people who loves to get your trip all planned out, have everything ready to go, know exactly what you're paying, this is going to be a great way for you to budget your trip. Because if you are not doing any, or you're doing other excursions or things away from the hotel that you need to make sure you put money aside for, making sure that your hotel and your stay and all of that with an all-inclusive, it just makes it easier because you're going to know exactly what you're going to be paying. So that is number 10. That's right. Easy on that budget, right? It's easy to budget. So number nine, it's kind of goes with the budgeting. And you'll find I put number 10 first because you're going to notice a pattern as I go through. But 9, you don't have to worry about dining. You can eat whenever you like. That's right. Staying at an all-inclusive resort, you have access to dining all the time. You can choose when you and where you want to eat. If they have multiple restaurants, you don't have to worry. Should we go to this restaurant? Sure. If you're with a party and they want to go to that restaurant, but you want to go to a different one, hey, check it out. You can do it. You don't have to worry about that extra cost happening, right? So you can eat at a variety of different things and not have to worry about paying it. You know, the one thing that we got in trouble for is we would get hunkering for like a midday snack before dinner, and we'd be in the pool, and we just go right up to the swim-up bar, and we would order a snack, and we'd end up having like a late lunch and then having to go take a nap for about 20 minutes because, you know, we were in the pool in the sun and then ate and then, you know, we were full and then we wanted to do other things. So it can be a little dangerous, but you don't ever have to worry about dining. It's all included, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, whatever you're in the mood for. You don't have to worry about being charged for that room service. It's taken care of. Number eight, you can drink whatever you want. That's right. You don't have to decide, like, should I stop? Should I have that extra Coke? Have I had too many iced teas? How many margaritas is this? Well, guess what? You don't have to worry about buying or budgeting for those drinks or those good times, you know, that glass of wine or whatever you're going to have with dinner. That's all included. All of that is included. So it can also be very dangerous too, because if you're one of those people and you go to an adults-only place where you just hang out at that pool bar and that swim-up bar, you could be there all day long. And hey, there was 1 or 2 days that we were dangerously close to just hanging out in the pool and drinking pina coladas or strawberry daiquiris or, you know, margaritas or whatever we were drinking. You know, it can get very dangerous. So they also replenish your in-suite mini bar. So if you are using the snacks and things and drinks in there, they're going to refill it. And guys, I tried this. I actually took things out. You know, they gave us a full bottle of tequila at our resort, and I don't drink lots of tequila, but I was kind of curious. So I took the bottle and I put it in my suitcase, you know, to see if they would give us another bottle. And by the time we came back after dinner later that night, there was a new bottle of tequila out there. And so they replenish all of that. They replenish all of those things. So, hey, you don't have to worry about paying extra for drinks. So there you go. Number seven. There's access to a lot of nightlife. Okay, so there's a lot of nightlife on the properties. And part of the reason is that they want you to stay on these properties. So they offer these activities, karaoke things. You know, there's all kinds of, depending again where you're staying, that will depend on what activities are offered. But, you know, if you leave the resort and you want to go into downtown Cabo San Lucas, then obviously you're not at their resort. So they do that to try to keep you there. And, you know, because you're going to want to book a longer stay. That's right. So if you book a longer stay, you're like, I don't have to go anywhere. So you're going to be around the resort. So they have a lot of activities. So plus it's also nice to have a place that has a variety of activities that they offer, no matter what your style is or your cup of tea is, as I usually say. So it is wonderful that is an option, because some hotels that you stay at that are not all inclusives have a very limited offering of activities. Most everything is going to be booking something through another tour company or something like that you have to, again, pay for. So with an all-inclusive, as we talked about earlier, your budget's already set, so you're good to go. Number six, you're more likely to try new things. And this one I I wanted to put up a little higher in my list, but there's so many other ones that I wanted in those spots. But this one is a great one, and it was one that I didn't even think about when I was at the resort. It was something that hit me later, and trying new things is something I love to do, but there are times when we go on vacation and you're sitting there and saying, oh, I'd love to try that, but I don't want to pay that price for that activity, or I don't think it's worth it, right? And you've budgeted your time and your money and you have all these other things, and, just because we're on vacation doesn't mean that we have to just throw money away, right? So there might be something that you're like, ooh, that looked kind of interesting, or I don't know if I would really do that because I don't know if that would be worth it to me. Well, staying at an all-inclusive resort, it allows you to try new foods, new things, new activities that you might not do. If you ever have tried those paddle boards and things like that, there's a lot of different things that you might not ever think you would have liked to do. And then staying at an all-inclusive resort, you might have that option to do that, right? I mean, it's just one of those things. When it's free, why not, right? So there you go. So that is my number 6. Number 5, okay? If you have kids, this one is more for the families. So if you have kids, they have supervised kids clubs. So basically, it's a babysitting opportunity or a babysitting service that you can allow someone that is certified and trusted to supervise the kids and basically a kids zone and a kids club. So they can have fun doing what they want to do, and you don't have to worry about them as much on your trip. Now, obviously, if you're a parent, you're most likely not going to kick your kids to the curb and just go have your own vacation. But every once in a while, when you travel with, kids, families, or even other siblings or large groups, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just need a little time to yourself or want to do something separate that the rest of the family or the rest of the group is not wanting to do. So if you're traveling with a family, free supervised kids club is a great thing to have an option for, to allow you to do that new activity or get that time to yourself. Number 4. This one is great because it kind of goes hand in hand with some of these are all kind of stacked on top of each other, but you avoid any disagreements over what activities you're going to do. That's right. Plain and simple. And this is really more if you're with a group, but I hope that you get a chance to travel with other people. But if you have ever traveled with a large group, or actually it doesn't even matter, if you've ever traveled with one other person that is not identical to you, if you did not clone yourself to travel, then you will have run into the issue at one point on a vacation where someone wants to do something and the other person wants to do something different. That's just how it is. Now, there's always compromising that happens, but guess what? When you stay at an all-inclusive resort, you don't have to do the same activities. You can actually go do different activities because they're both offered. So you don't have to worry about, oh, well, we paid to do this, so I didn't get a chance to do that. Hey, you can do both. Maybe try something new that you weren't wanting to try and then go do what you wanted to do. Or if you have no interest, go your separate ways and then meet back up for that late lunch, afternoon snack or dinner or whatever it is, wherever you're going to eat. So this just avoids, arguments. I mean, that can really bring a trip down. So anytime you can avoid a disagreement or any type of fighting or argument or bickering about what to do, which kind of seems kind of silly when you're on vacation anyway, but it's good. It's a good thing. So there you go. Avoid those disagreements. Number three, beaches and pools. Now, I talked about this at the very start of the podcast, but most all-inclusive resorts are known for having beautiful pools, and some even have private beaches. It's a big thing because they want you to utilize the resort. And if you're going to be paying for a resort that has everything, it's got to have beaches and pools. Not every all-inclusive resort has beaches and pools. I should probably say most, not all-inclusive have private beaches. I've never seen an all-inclusive that doesn't have a pool or access to a beach if you're in a beach location. So most all-inclusives that are by or on the beach have access to them. They may not have a private one, but you definitely will have access. But I've never seen an all-inclusive that doesn't have a pool. And they're usually fantastic and amazing. I mean, if you looked at a couple of the hotels that I were talking about, there was a hotel, which actually this one didn't quite make my list, but the Viceroy Los Cabos. That's a hotel, and they have it's a very modern hotel, which is why it wasn't my style. But it's very modern, very luxurious, great hotel, but the pool was just like a work of art. It was amazing. And that is a perk to all-inclusive resorts. They have some of the best pools in a resort that you can probably find. And I think that's great. Not the best pools ever, but they have some of the best pools that I've ever seen, and it just makes you want to stay there even more. And when you have a private beach and you get all-inclusive drink and food and activities, this is sounding, I know you're sitting there and going, this is sounding like maybe I should look into this. And again, it always depends where you're traveling, because sometimes it may not be worth it. If you are wanting to get out a lot and you're not utilizing the resort, then that's where these kind of go the other direction. But you should look at the positives to this and consider it if you're going to be staying somewhere that would benefit. This would benefit you. Okay, number two, no car rentals. Now, I know for our trip, we actually rented a car, and it was worth it to us because we got a great deal through American Express when we booked our trip, and we used those travel perks. But you don't have to have a car rental. And in fact, most large resorts and all-inclusive resorts have shuttle services that they offer from the airport. So depending where you're staying, they may have a free shuttle service that you get to and from. So at that point, if that's the only transportation you need, then there's no need to rent a car. It's just a headache sometimes to deal with renting a car and returning it and making sure there's gas in it and when you return it and all the details goes into renting a car. Now, like I said, we rented a car and it worked really well for us. And I'm not going to, in Cabo, I'm going to stand by. I liked having the car and renting it. Going back, I might utilize Uber a little bit more, but we really benefited the trip that we had from a car rental. But all-inclusives, you don't typically need to have a car, okay? If you choose to go off property, it's the only time you might need to use that, but use the shuttle. They may have a shuttle that can take you to that destination. Or, like I said, use Uber or one of the ride shares. That is a very popular thing now anyway to do. So there you go. And the number one reason that you should consider an all-inclusive resort is leaving your wallet in the safe. That's right. Again, it kind of started the list and ended the list on the same thing. We talked about budget as number 10, but number 1, leaving that wallet in the safe. That just means you don't need to have extra cash or money. You can leave everything. You don't have to worry about losing anything. Everything is there and included, so you're just there to enjoy yourself. You're not there to worry about paying for something or doing something else or needing your wallet to buy this or do that. It's another headache, so you can leave it in your safe, and there you go. Those are my top 10 reasons why I think you guys should consider staying at an all-inclusive resort. I had a great experience. It was wonderful. So there you go. I hope you have been inspired to take a trip this year or look to start planning one. It's never too late to start traveling, guys. It can open our eyes to new experiences, even unlock things about ourselves that we never knew. I believe everyone should travel and explore more of what this world has to offer. It can give us an appreciation and love for so many things. So let's start traveling.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From travel to health and wellness to entertainment and life and happiness to sex and relationships. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast.